All right, here he is. This is a great thrill. During his NFL coaching career, our next guest today helped rebuild and relocate so many NFL teams that HTTV should have given him his own show. Now he's doing it again as a head coach and general manager of the USFL's Michigan Panthers. Jeff Fisher, thanks for being here.
My pleasure, guys. How you doing?
Good. I'm thinking about this now that you're back, the head coaching. What happens to the cabin in Montana? Can we rent it out? Are you going to put it up on Airbnb, or is that still going to be a getaway?
That's a good question. Right now, it's covered in snow and you can't get in. So by the time
really?
The snow melts, the season will be over. I'll be up there watching anything else that happens during the summer.
Okay, now this is very exciting. You have the Panthers here. Now you have an interesting perspective, I think, above all other coaches, because you've been the head coach of two teams that relocated. You know how to get a franchise up and running, building a team. Was there something specific in those experiences that you think helped prepare you for this?
Well, for however many years, 20 years or so, over the course of time, I was just that. I mean, not only was I the head coach, but, you end up being a chief of staff and a director of football operations, and you build facilities and help consulting, with stadiums and such. But everything is pretty much in place here. Now, the day-to-day scheduling is a challenge, keep in mind, particularly because we have, 8 teams under one roof sharing 4 different practice fields. But, if you sit down, take the time, be patient, understand there's going to be some little bumps in the road, you're going to be okay. And that's where we stand right now. Everything is in place. We had some controlled scrimmages last weekend. We had a scrimmage at Protective at the stadium where all these games are going to be played for the most part. Everything went great. The technology with respect to this game and the production is off the charts. They're comparing this and I'm hearing that this is going to be even better than a Super Bowl production for the opening weekend. So what that means is that, we've got cameras all over the place. You've got sky cams, you got drones, you got cameras and players' helmets, and there's just a lot of great angles and a lot of opportunities for fans to interact with this game. Now, everybody's, for the most part, I think, ready. The guys have the systems in, where they're resting up, gearing up for the weekend. And, from a coaching perspective, and purely a coaching perspective, I'm really not quite sure what we have right now because we really haven't been able to compare ourselves to the other teams. We're going to find out this coming weekend. And the one thing I can guarantee is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Sunday, you kick things off. I do want to know, and you mentioned the technology, and there's a bunch of new rules or rules that are different. I want to get your opinion on what you're in love with, what you're maybe not sure of, and what maybe you don't like out of the new rules. First of all, the technology you brought up. The first down marker.
Let me talk on the rule changes just for a moment. Sure. After a touchdown, the offense has the opportunity to go over 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
The 3-point attempt will be a 4th and 10 from the 10-yard line. One shot, you get in, you get 3. So that the scoring changed a little bit. The overtime going to the end of the game now. The overtime is going to be different. It's going to be, it's been referred to as a hockey shootout. But in a lot of ways, and that it'll be just 2-point play exchanges. So, you got a first round, each team has an opportunity to convert a 2-point play. You go to the next round, and after the first one to go up 2-0 wins in overtime. And if it continues, then they'll go to sudden death periods, but it's all 2-point plays. It's not going to be that long drawn out type of overtime that we're all used to. So I think that's exciting. There's another change with respect to the kickoff. The kickoff is going to be put in play for the most part because the kickoff line is going to be the 25-yard line. So you're not going to see a bunch of touchbacks. It's going to be a hybrid. It's going to be a combination of a live ball for 30 yards and then a punt actually after it goes 30 yards. So you're not going to have a bunch of guys going after and trying to recover a kickoff 30 yards down the field. So, that's all in the interest of player safety. I'm really anxious to see how that works out. And then, we have a 35-second play clock, which is going to speed the game up a little bit, and, a 10-minute halftime. So you don't have much time as a fan, as a spectator to do much other than to, maybe pour yourself another beer and get right back in front of the TV.
Yeah. And I want to get back to, so let's break a couple of those down. Will you be going for 3? I mean, I know you don't want to give out your game plan.
I mean, yeah, I think, from an analytics standpoint, that remains to be seen. That what you can do, however, is not to keep this in mind. If you're down a score, and you go for 3 and you convert, you just cut that thing to 9, or you've taken a 9-point, lead in the thing. So, the scoring, the numbers are going to be different. It's all going to really be dependent on, how as coaches we feel what our chances are to execute the play. Fourth and goal from the 10, it's easier said than done. But if you're in a system play calling where you're in a rhythm or there's an issue on the defensive side of the ball, I feel like you can get in, then I think you'll see teams going for it. The other thing that I didn't mention was after any score, and that would include a safety. By an offensive team, but after any score at any time during the game, the team can elect 1 to kick the ball up, as I mentioned, from the 25-yard line, or 2 to exercise their onside kick option, if you will, and the ball be placed on the 33-yard line. It'll be 4th and 12. If you reach the 45, you keep possession of the ball. If you don't, the defense takes over at the end of that play. So it's an opportunity to keep the ball away from your opponent. It's an untimed down. So it'll be interesting to see. If you do convert your 4th and 12, say you pick up the first down, you got the ball at the 46-yard line, that previous down was on time. You basically could push that ball down the field and score without time running off the clock. So I mean, it's an interesting concept as it relates to 2 things. 1, player safety, you eliminate the onside kick thing and those wrecks that take place right at the recovery of the ball. But 2, it creates excitement, enthusiasm, and a lot of strategy behind the 4th and 12 election.
Yeah, that's on the onside kick, 4th and 12. I know the NFL toyed with maybe putting that in play. But boy, I hear you go over these new rules, and I was reading them, and it really, correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like you have like 150 more decisions to make than you would in an NFL game. This is a lot harder for you than it would be in the NFL, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, assuming that you can score touchdowns. If you can't get the ball in the end zone, you're not facing those decisions. Yeah. But if you get the ball in the end zone, then at least we have options. I think you'll see a lot more 2-point plays than you would normally out of a college game or an NFL game, particularly because a lot of these teams have 1 kicker who's doing both the kicking and the punting. And I think some teams may say, we got a better chance of getting this ball in the end zone than we do kicking that extra point from the 15-yard line. And I don't mean that as being disrespectful to our kickers, but, we want the ball, we want possession of it, we want to score points, and that's the bottom line.
Right. And so all these new rules, but you still have the mustache. It's a goatee now, if I'm looking at it right.
No, I cleaned up for you guys. It's a little gray, but I cleaned up for you guys.
Do you have the most famous mustache in all of football? We were trying to think about this.
You guys have to do your research. There was a time period there where I was actually embarrassed when at the gate as the fans came in, both in St. Louis and in Tennessee, they handed out mustaches on a stick. So I actually have one. Next time you guys invite me on, I'll show it to you.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, I was trying to go. I know Joe Namath had one. There's been a few, I think, but I think yours is the most prominent. All right, Harry has a question for you. Bear with us. He's new at this, but go ahead, Harry.
Hey, Coach. Hey, listen, Shea Patterson and Paxton Lynch are your 2 quarterbacks on the Panthers roster. Now, Lynch was a first-round pick by the Broncos, but it didn't work out for him. So is it Paxton or Patterson who's impressed you more?
Don't answer that, Coach. Don't you have not to cause trouble in the locker room.
Of course, you're going to ask me who my starting quarterback is 6 days before the opener. And what do you think I'm going to tell you? They're both going to play. How's that? They both play we'll tip our hat later on in the week. They're both having a great camp. Keep in mind, it's only been a couple of weeks. And so, we've got a small roster. It's hard to put them in competitive situations and, to where one guy could really, take the lead over the other. So I'm really pleased with the progress. They're two different types of quarterbacks. They're good leaders. They're exceptionally smart with respect to executing the offense. They're both going to play. And, in my mind, as it also is the case in a lot of the other positions, whether you're a starter or not, everybody's going to play.
I apologize for that. Harry's a troublemaker. He's a mixer, and you didn't have to answer that. I do want to ask, though, when you guys did the draft, you did it by position, right?
We did the initial draft was by position. We started with the quarterbacks, then we went to tackles and guards, and then jump over to defensive ends. So that was the initial draft. And then the supplemental draft was a wide open draft that everyone's used to just to fill out your roster. But the roster size right now is 45 guys. We'll have an active and inactive list that will be declared later in the week. Probably expect that list to come out somewhere in that 48 hours before kickoff. And then that way you guys will have an idea who's playing, who's not. And a lot of that is injury related. So we'll have a list for you guys, a couple of days before the game. And then we're going to find a way to get to a game with, 37 players or 38 players on a game day roster, which is challenging, which means you got starters on special teams, backups ends up starting, and got a lot of stuff going on. But overall, I do want to take just a second to talk about the player. The player that we all have, 35, 45 of them now, they're great young men. They're really, really excited about their opportunity to showcase their abilities, to be productive on the field with the hope that someday this translates into something better for them.
Well, that's nice. And without stepping on the field yet, it's looking like you have two of the more prominent quarterbacks, right? Shea Patterson and Paxton Lynch. So that's a nice start. Well, head start.
You guys need to do a little bit more research on some of the other quarterbacks. I'm a little nervous with respect to the opener and for the first couple of games, is because we just really haven't seen. You have an idea who's on the roster. You can go back and look at some college tape or an alternate league tape and see what they've done. Look at the skill set, but we haven't seen them live. Don't know how they're going to be deployed. So, there's that uncertainty that's going to go into a lot of the games early on in the season.
All right. You know what? I think you're doing too much research. How do you like that? I think I'm doing just enough. No, I do want to ask you before we let you go.
Players informed, that's all.
Of course. Your former team, the Rams, finally got over the hump. They won the Super Bowl. Did Sean McVay or Les Snead ever reach out to you, or did you reach out to them? What was that conversation like?
I reached out to Les and to the staff and wished them luck. The first time they went, and they came up short. And, obviously I was pulling for that group. There's still many players on that team that we brought into that organization. I'm happy for Stan Kroenke and Kevin Demoff and the rest of the organization. It's a hard thing to do, number one, but it's even harder when you're going to do it in your own backyard, and things fell into place very nicely for them this past year.
I don't know if you saw this week, an LA Times reporter tweeted that Les Snead admitted you were a big fan of Bobby Wagner, who's now on the Rams, going into the 2012 draft. And has he since apologized to you?
Is that Bobby or Les?
I think Les. I mean, now he brings him on a decade later.
I watched Bobby in person at Auburn. My son was playing at Auburn at the time. I was at dad, hat on backwards, watching Bobby at Auburn. He stood out, and I thought, surely we have this guy on our draft board. And, in retrospect, he wasn't as high as we would have liked. We were just getting started there. We were between draft evaluation systems, and sometimes guys fall through the cracks. But ultimately, Bobby's in a good place right now, and he had a great career with the Seahawks. He's one of the better offense or defensive players at that position and played this game in a long time. He's Ray Lewis-like in his world.
Do you ever envision the USFL being like a feeder system, like you guys being a feeder system, say for the Detroit Lions, or like a minor league, say, for the NFL? I'm always curious why the NFL hasn't really explored that option of having minor league teams for each franchise. Is that something that this could lead to possibly down the road?
No, at this point, I can't comment on that. I do know that the NFL was the driving force behind NFL Europe, and that was a success for a while.
Right.
Basically, you have a player pool that lacks playtime, reps, etc.
Right.
And that's how you develop players. But this is our baby. This is a new and exciting venture for everybody associated with it. And I'm sure the NFL is going to look at some of the rule changes and things like that, the modifications. But no, the two are two completely separate entities at this point. All right. You guys have fun with it. We'll see you. Take care.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Coach.
All right. All right. There you go. Jeff Fisher. Well, that was fun, guys. Right?
It's weird that we're not rooting for the gamblers, though.
I know that is a little
And
strange.
now you guys want to jump on Shea Patterson's back, huh? Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Well, we'll see if he's starting, Harry. You try to get it out of him.
I
Wow.
mean, honestly, he did not seem happy with that question, Harry. It was once again.
I didn't say who was starting. I said who was more impressed by that.
He was in
that's
a
even
great.
worse.
He was in a great mood until you asked him that.
That's true.
Seriously,
That was even
really,
worse. Who are you
that
most
took
impressed
the tone,
by?
The tone.
Let me start
went
trouble in the locker room 6 days before the season starts, or 4 days
unbelievable,
before.
unfreaking believable.
By the way, he said I didn't do my research either. Twice he said that to me.
I'm pretty
felt
sure
like
he was
did
talking
a
to
lot of
Harry
research.
about the research
was he?
thing, Sal.
All right.
I'm pretty
There you
sure.
go.
Because I have a feeling there's another guy on that roster who's a quarterback that might be better than both of them. And
Yeah.
Harry just never looked him up. We really should look at that roster right
Interesting.
now.
I know. I just looked at the
There's
names
only
that
two. I
jumped up.
looked
Sal,
up the
but this-
roster. There's two quarterbacks.
This is where your son, Jack, he could get himself into this league right now.
Well, I told him this is
where-
what he should do. We can go to
this-
games and everything. You know,
This
Fox
is,
run.
yeah, this
Let's
is
do it.
something where, right, yes.
All right. Well, we got USFL. We gave our picks for the weekend. We gave our picks for overall. We got your picks for the games tonight. And that'll do it for another episode of Against All Odds. For Spaghetti, for Meatballs, for Babyface Joel Solomon, and the Degenerate Trifecta, I'm Sal saying so long and happy handicapping.